All right, here we go. We're live on Facebook now. Hello, everybody in Facebook land. We're going to get started here. We've got Annie Margis here with our Teaching Tuesday today. And our subject for today is a little bit different. We normally are covering business topics, but we do cover a lot of personal topics. And today's topic is very personal, where we're talking about healing from abuse as a child, which leads to a life of thriving. Really not wanting people to feel like they're having to carry that around with them anymore, feel like they're only surviving, but understanding how to let that go. And how interesting that when I pulled one of my cards this morning, my angel cards, it said, letting go. I don't dwell on the bad things that happen. I let go because I have enough heavy things to carry around. And also grudges aren't a great look. So I thought that was very interesting that I happened to pull a card this morning about letting go when many of us carry around the abuse or carry around the things that have happened to us when we were younger, instead of just letting them go because they no longer serve us. And today, Annie Margis, good friend of mine, is going to be covering all about that from her childhood and teaching us about healing. Many of us that will be on the call today or listening today have had some type of abuse as a child. And that is why we're all here, to seek comfort from each other and to learn ways that we can come to grips with that and be able to let go of, like I said, the things that are no longer serving us. And we want to thank Annie for being a member of Lead Up for Women. And if any of you are looking to be able to be on this platform that Annie is on, every Tuesday, we open this platform for our members to come forward to teach us something that's going to help us in our personal lives, in our relationships, in our community, in our businesses. So really everything about our lives. So Annie, thank you so much for being here today. I met Annie not too long ago. She's been part of our book club. Annie is always working on herself. That's what I love about Annie. And she's written a book to help others heal. So she's out there all the time on a mission to be able to help other people heal like she has, so she can move forward in her life, because it's a big step to take between living with the abuse and letting it affect you every day, and letting it go to live the life that you really truly should be living. So Annie, thank you again for can you hear me, or did something just happen with my sound? Okay, I just got to notice that something happened with my sound, so I want to make sure you can hear me. So Annie, I'm going to go ahead and let you take over and introduce yourself a little bit more, and go ahead and start rolling.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everybody. I'm Annie, and I'm wearing my Happy Sunshine necklace so that we can smile a little bit, even though we'll be talking about something difficult. And I'm going to start off with asking a question. When you were a little kid, did anybody ever touch you in a wrong way? Were you ever abused? They used to call it molestation. Today we call it sexual assault. If that happened to you when you were a kid, you're not alone. It happened to me. And I see a hand raised. I see a hand raised. Yes, I'm sorry to know that, but yes. Would anyone else like to raise a hand and say, yeah, it happened to me? It's okay if you don't. It's really hard. It's really hard to say that this happened to me. It's hard for me to say I'm a victim of childhood incest. It's a really hard word. I call it the ugliest word. It's the ugliest word there is, incest. And to have that happen to somebody in their childhood is a devastating event, or a series of events. And it's a terrible crime. It's a terrible crime. And it's very common. We need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. So sorry, going back to my note, I couldn't talk about this until I was like retired from teaching. My whole adult life, I had a messed up life with no friends and couldn't cope and had anxiety and depression because I didn't deal with it. It just hung over me in the back of my mind that it was there. And I could finally start working on it when I retired. And now that's been about 15 years. And I can honestly say, I'm pretty healed. I'm doing pretty well. Look at me, I can talk on a podcast. Before, I could hardly open my front door. Anyway, let's look at some of the statistics, see how big this problem is here. Globally, 1 out of 3 girls and 1 out of 5 boys are quote unquote molested. And it's almost always by someone they know. It's not strangers. 90% of child sexual assault is committed by parents and other family members and extended family members. That's incest. You can't unknow that. It's not just the priests. It's not just the strangers that we're afraid of. It's in the family. Do you know anybody who survived childhood incest besides me? Because I did. Everybody knows somebody. Everybody does. Maybe a really good friend or family member, but often they never say. They never tell anyone about it. It carries wrongfully a big shame for the victim. The victim feels overwhelmed with the shame of this having happened. And that's what we have to get over in order to thrive, is to get over the shame. What is childhood incest? It's the sexual assault on a child by a closely related individual, society's strictest taboo. Sexual contact between a child and an adult is never acceptable for any reason. The World Health Organization announced that childhood sexual abuse, they called it abuse, not assault, is a silent health emergency. It's a silent health emergency. It's so common, and yet no one is talking about it. Happily, we're talking about it. Well, not happily, but we are talking about it. So who is it that's perpetrating childhood sexual assault? 40 to 80%, and there are lots of different numbers, but 40, 80% of it is committed by a parent or step-parent. 90% of the offenders know their victim personally, and 96% of all child sexual abuse is perpetrated by males. 20% of child sex offenders have 10 to 40 victims. And 70% of child sex offenders have between 1 and 9 victims. Now, who is it that's being abused? According to UNICEF, that's the United Nations Children's Fund, 120 million girls on Earth today have experienced forced sexual acts. There's another statistic for the United States. 400,000 babies born this year will become victims of childhood sexual abuse. 70% of all reported sexual assaults occur to children ages 17 and under. 70%. And 44% of all rapes with penetration occur to children under age 18. Children who live with a single parent with a live-in partner are 20 times more likely to be victims. And children in foster care are 10 times more likely to be victims. It's very sad. A lot of people. Now, when, I have this question in my who, what, when does most abuse occur? I'm sorry, someone's trying to call. There. I hope I didn't go away. Did I go away? Okay. Okay, when does most childhood sexual abuse occur? This is sad. It occurs at 8 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. So you can see that it's around school times in and out. That's when it occurs. And another thing about when is that in the US, every 9 minutes, a child is assaulted. Where does it occur? 84% occurs in the residence of the victim or the offender. Now, we want to help kids who are in this situation. We want to be able to recognize it when it's happening so that we can tell somebody, so that we can talk about it. So how do you tell if a little kid is being molested? It's easier to say. There are symptoms that you can watch out for. And I can mail everybody my notes so that you have a list of symptoms and of other things that I've got in here. Okay, but here's a few symptoms that you might see in a child and you might think, oh, why is that going on? You might see nightmares and bedwetting, cruelty to animals, self-harm of any kind, withdrawal from friends and drawing sexual pictures, genital discomfort, anxiety, unexplained anger. And then I have a couple more statistics about these results. Sexually abused children are twice as likely to run away from home, 3 times more likely to use drugs and be dependent on alcohol, twice as likely to become teen mothers. And yes, I see. Yes, me. Yes. Yeah. So what can we do if we see that a child might be under these circumstances? You may think, oh, I can't do anything. I could never say anything because it's none of my business. And what if I'm wrong? Well, what if you're right? And you could stop a kid from being hurt. Tell the police. Just tell the police, I see this and I just want you to know. Tell them that you have to be anonymous, and also tell Child Protective Services. And I guess those are in every state, every county or something. And that's those 2 entities. You can tell them anonymously that you suspect this. So it's not like a police state or anything like that. But if you really think that might be going on, that's who you would tell. You can also talk to people around the child, talk to the child's parents and grandparents and stuff like that. I'm sorry, a message just popped up on my screen. It said, warning. It was like a text message. Okay, I'm sorry. So what about adults who have been abused as children? Okay. What if they come to you, somebody, a friend of yours says, I really want to talk about this. This happened to me. How can you listen in a way that will make them feel comfortable and able to open up? The first thing to do is to believe them. Don't doubt them. If they're saying this to you, probably happened. Give them 100% of your attention when you're listening. Don't be doing other things. And be judgment-free. Don't be thinking in your mind, oh my, that person did that. That person must be bad. So that's the kind of thing we think, we victims, we're taught to think that, but we don't want other people to look at us and think that. That's a really big fear that we have, is that that will happen. And you can thank them for sharing with you and ask them if there's anything that you can do to help. And if the person isn't already involved in healing modalities, you could tell them that on the internet, there are chat rooms and Zoom rooms and telephone conferences for people who have been victimized. And you don't have to be alone anymore. People are talking about it. People are speaking mostly among one another, but they're speaking about it. And that's where I got my healing. I spent 4 years on a phone line every day. I was on it every day. And the phone line was a conference line where people would take turns telling their story. They would have 5 minutes each. Nobody could interrupt. Nobody could comment. It was just a place to speak. And then after 5 minutes, another person got a chance to speak. So I did that for every day for 4 years. And I heard other people's stories every day, over and over and over again. I heard stories. And after a while, I started to get really mad at the perpetrators. And then I started to get really mad at the perpetrator who injured me. And I started to really love the other victims whose stories I heard. And I was able to turn that into really loving me, realizing it wasn't my crime and it's not my shame. That's the big step we have to take. Let's see my time. I'm just looking at my notes and seeing my time, excuse me. Okay, so why am I doing this? Why am I on a podcast like this? Well, I really believe that there are steps that we can take to put an end to this. I really believe that. We can put an end to this. How can we possibly do that? It's such a secret crime. It's everywhere. Well, let's take away the secret. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it openly, the way we talk about rape now. Remember when that was only whispered? Nobody ever admitted they were raped. That wasn't that long ago. We started talking about it, talking out loud about it. That's what we have to do with childhood sexual assault. We have to talk about it. We have to say, you know what, that happened to me. Oh, it happened to you too. Oh, it happened to you too. Oh, wow, I didn't know that was happening to everyone. And have a conversation. And we can have those conversations every day with someone if we want to. I try to. And I tell you, I mean, I have friends I don't bring it up to every day, but it's not easy to talk about it, but I mostly talk about it with strangers. Interesting. And do you know that except for one sister, we're six, there's 6 of us, I've never spoken about it with my siblings. But I can speak publicly now, so how can we get rid of it? Here are my 4 steps are that we talk about it, we learn to recognize it, we report it, and we prevent it. And so I'm going to talk about each of those 4 pieces, the talk about it piece. Silence is the monster in the closet. We need to slay that monster so that kids can be safe in their own homes and feel like they can tell people if it's happening to them. How can they possibly tell anybody when it's such a shameful secret? Well, if they start hearing other people talking about it, then maybe they'll realize, hey, it's not a secret after all. I could talk about it too. And maybe then it can be stopped. let's see. Okay, that was that. And then the next step is to report. And I've already mentioned that. That's probably the scariest thing about this, is the idea of who me report somebody, get involved in somebody else's family business, do an intervention. Well, you don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is tell the authorities, the police and the Child Protective Services, and you can do that anonymously. And the next one is prevent childhood incest. How can we prevent it? How can we prevent this? Well, let's go back to the start and talk about it. That's how we're going to prevent it, because we're going to talk about it, and people who are committing this crime are going to hear us talk about it and know we're on to them. It's not a secret anymore. And hopefully, I really believe that perhaps they'll seek help and stop the behavior. So those are my 4 steps. Talk about it, learn to recognize it, report it, and prevent it. I want to talk about how I personally healed from the tragedy of childhood sexual abuse, assault. I retired when I was in my 40s still, almost 50, on disability. I had to stop working because I was very sick. Nothing that would kill me, and I'm fine now, but that happened. And right away, I went to a therapist. I knew this is time. No, I'm not working. I'm going to a therapist. And I did. I went to a lot of therapists. I didn't find them a whole lot of help. They didn't seem very experienced with the field of child abuse. But what I did gain from the very first therapist was an explanation of a group that I could join, where people got together. It happened to be a women's group. They're not all women's group, but they got together twice a week and took turns talking. And everybody else listened, and then it was the next person's turn. That same kind of meeting where everyone shares but no one comments. So I started attending that, and that was a big eye-opener, because I always thought I was the only one. I mean, I never really thought about it, but it was there that, other people, they didn't have to go through that, did they? So now here I was sitting face to face with other women who have had similar experiences and hating their perpetrators and loving them. And that was such a great experience. And I'm sorry, it went on from there to phone conferences. Before we even had the COVID, we were doing distance meetings where in those days you just called up and everybody was in there on the same phone line, but you were muted, and then you would unmute and take your turn speaking. So I started one of those, and then I started a couple others of them, and they got to be a really good way to talk, because anybody in the whole world could call in, and there was no charge because it was a free conference line. Don't really know how that works, but it was no charge. And so I helped to start a 24-hour line for people who had survived, specifically childhood incest. It was for a 12-step program. And I have to be anonymous. I'm not supposed to say the name of that because that's one of their traditions. But the internet can inform you about programs like that. So we set up this line, and I think we did like 6 meetings a day, and they were an hour and a half each, something like that. And then after the meetings, we had visiting time where people would take turns talking to each other and exchanging ideas. So it was this really great program, and I was on there for 4 years, every day, and it healed me. And while I was on there, I started to write. And at first, I wrote a poem, a little tiny poem. And I gave it to the first person who ever told me that he was abused. That was before I started my meetings. I wrote that poem. So the poem evolved into a little short story. And then from there, it turned into a play, a stage play. Why a stage play? Because I hear dialogue. That's what I hear in my brain. So that's what came out on paper. So a stage play. And I published that stage play all by myself on Create Space on Amazon. And that was a really, really huge moment for me, because there I was, my name, Annie Margis, survivor of incest. Here's the book, the play. And the whole world knows now you're not private anymore. And that was so freeing. No more secret. There's no secret. I don't have a secret anymore. And I don't have anything to be ashamed of. So that was the play. And I want to tell you about another artistic endeavor that I saw. It was called Dead Pedophiles. Deadpedophiles.com was a website, and I built it. I knew how to build websites back then. And I'm thinking, hey, this is a great idea. My perpetrator's dead. Other people's perpetrators are dead. Let's have a memorial site for all the dead pedophiles. That was my thinking. And so I invited people to put little signs on the graves of their perpetrators and say dead pedophile on the sign, and send in a picture and put it on the web. I thought it was brilliant. Didn't get very far. And when I told my therapist about it, she thought maybe I needed to work on my anger more. So I let that one go by the wayside. If you search for deadpedophiles.com, I don't know what you'll find, but you won't find my website. So there I was with this play. And at the time I was working as a ghostwriter, helping other people write their books. And one of my clients was a movie producer. And I actually associate produced a movie with him, which was a really fun experience. And I gave him my play to read. And he read the play and he said, oh, let's make this a movie. He was very excited about it. And sorry, a comment popped up. He was very excited about it. And he said, only one thing, you have to rewrite it. The play had been about the end of a perpetrator's life. He wanted me to write about childhood being abused. And so I did. I took that play and rewrote it and wrote about childhood, not my childhood, just dramatic incidents from childhoods that I had heard over and over and over again. Same story over and over again over the years. The same kinds of things happen to us. And so it's a novel. It's not, what I've written is not a biography. Anyway, so I wrote it, and I wrote it in a screenplay form, and I gave it to him, and he read it and he said, oh no, we can't make this. He was just appalled by it. And so he stepped out of the project. However, another producer that I know likes the project and has committed to producing it with me, helping me produce it mostly. He tells me what to do. And yeah, we're going to make a movie. The ugliest word, the movie. But right now, I just want to say that after I wrote the movie screenplay of it, I decided to turn it into a novel. And that's because I always wanted to write books. That was ever since a kid. I always wanted to write books. And here I was writing all this stuff and not writing a novel. So I took my screenplay and turned it into a novel. And this is it. It was published last October by Impact Driven Publishing. And they like to publish books that they think will change the world. And they think this will change the world. Well, I hope that it will change individuals, if that they can read it and see their own parts of their own stories in it and begin to free themselves. And if the book sparks conversation, if people take the book and give it to each other and start talking about this problem and saying, yeah, it happened to me. We should wear little Me Too buttons. Say, yeah, it happened to me. I think we can stop this. I'm coming to the end of that part of my speech. I just want to say that if you're interested, I'll send you my book for free, the ebook version. I'd be delighted to do that, because I just want everybody to read it. And you can feel free to share it with others as well. I give it away. And you could put your email in the chat box if you would. And I'll tell you my email as well. I'm Annie at theugliestword.com. So that's easy to remember the name of the book, theugliestword.com. And it's Annie, Annie. And Colleen, that's the end of my speech, except there's other stuff I could throw in, but I don't really want to.
Well, I put your email in there for everyone so that they have it. And I recommend that everyone drops their email in there as well, so that Annie can share her book with you. And, you know, Tricia, you were making a lot of comments throughout. Is there anything that you wanted to add to today's conversation?
Well, I could probably sit and chat with Annie for like 100 years. Not that, you know, that's a surprise to anybody that actually knows me. But, you know, with the population that I work with, obviously, myself included, because my population is me, you know, there is a high prevalence of people that from childhood have either been sex trafficked, have been, you know, lived in incest type situations, and have survived things such as abduction, being held captive, and being, you know, gang raped, and so on and so on, right? And so I work in the world of addiction, and so there has to be some level of, and one of the things that I love that you said was, you know, you went to a therapist, they really didn't understand, they really weren't that helpful. And it takes time. I think it's super important that people understand that you have to find somebody that speaks your language, somebody that has some level of empathy from you. Not doesn't necessarily mean they had to walk a mile in the same story, but boy, let me tell you, it's sure helpful when somebody is mentoring somebody that has actually moved through and learned how to, as I call it, live free from whatever it is that is happening in your life. Because I mean, I had a therapist, and she didn't know she was doing it, but she gave me some really good tips on how to hide my addiction for a long time. and you know, so, but they don't do it with malice. They don't, you know, they just, you know, if they haven't studied it, and if they haven't walked it or had some level of personal experience with it, it is really difficult for somebody to help you learn how to package up and restructure the way that your brain is firing around those traumatic events, because trauma is stored in our brain very uniquely. And so it doesn't necessarily, it could be a yellow flower could prompt a trauma response, and it can be the most beautiful yellow flower and still prompt a trauma response. And if they don't really have that kind of understanding of how to get you to find out all your whys underneath that, it can be really difficult for them to help you navigate, you know, through your own healing process. It's a big topic. It's a sensitive topic. And I think it's just important that as our daughters and our granddaughters and our great granddaughters are all being born, and I shouldn't even leave it at daughters, because, you know, men are abused as well, boys are abused, and babies are abused. And I just think that it needs to be talked about. And our bodies are sacred, and we should always have the ability to choose what happens to it, male, female. Yeah, and I just don't think that it's that we, I don't think we talk openly enough to our children. We've got to learn how to speak at their level in a way that doesn't, freak them out, right? Because we don't want to we don't want to traumatize them before something happens. But I think we need to lead by better example, and talk about all of the things, right?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah,
Sarah,
Annie mentioned earlier, she mentioned not my crime, not my pain. And for me, and I think for many other people, you hold on to it as if it is your crime and your pain. And I have friends and colleagues and girlfriends that start talking about it in their adult lives, but it's manifested in so many other things in their lives because they held on to it. And it's not ours to bear. It's not our pain to bear. It's not our crime to carry. And so it's the process of letting go. And do any of you have ideas for those listening through Facebook today or watching this video later? What are some tips? And I know you said talking about it. What was the other thing you said? Recognizing it, reporting it, and preventing it, right? So all those pieces. Is that right, Annie?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think one of the things that we can do, a tip, right, is take a look at the things that are outside of us, right? That was something that somebody else did that we had no control over. So we have to learn how to let it go as that, right? So take whatever learning piece that we can and really truly realize that it was something somebody else did. If somebody caused an accident on the freeway and you were involved in it, you're not going to carry that burden of, oh my gosh, somebody else cut somebody off on the freeway and now I'm going to take it as my fault. So it's literally the same concept. You didn't cause it. Don't take that on. I mean, my first rape, like they stalked me for a year and said, hey, I just wanted you to be my girlfriend. Totally messed up, the brain functioning there with regard to that relationship. But once I realized that was his ill concept of what the act was about and not mine, I was able to move forward and have, appropriate relationships. But you have to find the way to, again, to get the brain to refire in a different way around the situation. And so there are a series of steps that you can do, and there's a lot of psychological tactics that can be used. And one of them is the locus of control and really having an understanding around that.
Yeah. Twana, did you want to say anything?
Well, thank you for Annie. So generous of you to offer your book. So I do hope that you will send it, and please sign it for me. Please. I absolutely love collecting books that are signed by authors. I want to apologize. I missed the fine print. I didn't know we were going to be on camera. So, but couple of things. Love the topic. Would hope that there's an opportunity to continue the conversation so that we can begin to uncover, put it out there so that we can address those who are doing it, and continue to help those find their path to healing. I know as we talk about seeking out a therapist, I am a big proponent of mental health. And if that means that you have to have a therapist to help you, then totally do that. But I want to also ensure that people seek out those, exactly what you said, speak your language, seek out those who specifically have some training within this area, because instances of those therapists who do more harm than good. And unfortunately, that can be the case sometimes. So great topic. I appreciate the opportunity to attend. I have had friends share. I am wanting more so to address this because of what I see as the attack on women that is coming. And with that attack, there is this general feeling we are devalued, we are less than. And if you get that sense, then more people will not come forward. More people will shy away, and more people will begin to think, hey, this is my problem because I am less than. And the ones that are in power really and truly need to be exposed for who they are. And that can be scary. That can be absolutely scary. So I'm wanting to help. Colleen, I am a big fan. I've been a big fan for probably about a year. I've been trying to attend your, I think it's on Thursdays.
The Lunch and Learn?
Yes. And for some reason, I can never get in, which is another reason why I'm here, because I wanted to share. I'm a big fan. Trisha, I've heard you speak at one of the conferences. So fan of yours as well, but I want to be able to talk to you, Colleen, about what you offer. I get the lead up and to join on a monthly basis, but I get that all the time, and I want to be sure that it's a win-win. But my inability to get in on Thursdays, it's like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? I think I need to be in this forum. I think I need to be there, but I just can't get in. For whatever reason, I don't know what's going on. So sorry, I don't mean to take up time, but I did want to put that out there. So hopefully we can connect. So
No, we
thank you
will.
so much.
Let me drop a link in the chat for you, Twana. So will you pronounce your first name for me? Twana. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm not sure why you can't get in on Thursdays or what's happening there. So I'll drop a link, and then you can schedule some one-on-one time with me, and let's talk about
Fantastic.
all the stuff that you want to chat about.
Fantastic.
And then you and I can have some one-on-one time to do that. And
All right.
yeah, and I agree what you were talking about earlier with seeking out people that that are the right fit, that have been through it, that know what they're talking about. And that's why, Trisha is a great person, for someone to be able to work with because of what she's been through, the certifications that she's received, the work that she does today with so many individuals that are recovering from many childhood issues and things that they're still carrying with them that they really don't need to, right? They're the heroes, not the victims. They're not the ones that need to be carrying the pain or the suffering. And so I know she's helped so many people with that. So thank you for being here today, Trisha. And Annie, thank you for your courage and bravery to really stand up and voice, and not only voice for other people to realize that they're okay, but to provide forums for them to heal in those forums. And do you guys do either one of you right now know of any additional forums for someone who is wanting to continue the conversation in a group setting? Do you guys know of any forums that they can jump into? Or Tricia, should they reach out to you individually? Annie, should they reach out to you individually?
I'm totally open to just creating one. I mean, if we all want to continue the conversation, all I got to do is block some time on my calendar and we can make one. Totally fine. I also have my Monday night life skill group where we talk about we talk live about the actual life skills that we utilize. That I'm opening up spaces in as well. But I'm more than happy to make one that's specifically for survivors or those that still need to heal. Not a problem. Just send me a message and if we get a good enough head count, it's good. And it doesn't have to be, a lot. It could just be 3 or 4 of us, right? Doesn't matter. We can absolutely do that.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I think everyone that's been on the call today has, I think everyone has put their information into the chat. If you haven't put your email into the chat, if you'll do that, Sylvia and Monica, that would be helpful. That way individually, Trisha can reach out because she can save the chat and reach out to each one of us to be able to create that group. And I know you do your Monday night group as well, which would be a great group for people to join because it's something you already have established, which would be a wonderful group for people to join as well. So, you know, it really just takes getting the conversation started. And I love the, you know, what you offered, Annie, about sending us the list of things to watch out for. Because it, you know, even if we're around other students, if any of us are around youth at any time, these are just signs to watch out for all the time so that we can report it when they're afraid to, or when someone else is ignoring it, the fact, right? And that's just what it takes is awareness. The very first step is awareness. And then once we have that awareness, we can decide what we do with that awareness.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there an opportunity also, as you have these conversations, those who joined and you talk about your steps, some information, general information on what that process looks like? Because a lot of it is, I want to report it, but then what happens once I report it? Because I know some of the conversations I've had is, oh no, I can't tell because if I report this, we're going to be put out of, we're not going to have a place to live. We're going to be homeless. So just a little bit around what that process looks like, I think will help, and not to discourage, but to encourage.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't really know anything about whether there's a resource to help with that, but there are many, many books being written now about the problem, and there's probably a book that tells you about that. I'm going to search for one.
Well, Trisha just mentioned in the chat earlier that she's a master reporter. Is that what you said?
I'm a mandated reporter
A mandated.
in the state of California. So it doesn't attach to the majority of my certifications, but it does attach to my California Association for counseling. So for that particular, so I have had to report because of a situation, and you know, it's not necessarily the greatest feeling, because you know that it may, you know, put a wedge in a family, but it's necessity, right? And there are, so when you report, especially when you're talking about CPS, Child Protective Services, one thing that you have to know is that CPS has resources for you should you be the one that needs to be removed, right? Because you're the mother with the child or whatever. But generally speaking, it's the perp that's removed. And especially if it's, again, you know, a marital situation where one of the children is being, you know, harmed. And now if it's an adult situation and there's domestic violence and an assault happening in that fashion, you know, again, if you're married, you know, it's a 50-50 state. Generally, the perpetrator is the one that's going to be removed. However, you still may not feel safe. And so there are places for you to go and you know, be relocated and have those services there. Systems aren't perfect. We know this, systems aren't perfect. So by talking about it and being upfront and out loud and reporting and bringing these things up, the more awareness that we bring, like standing up and going, look, I'm a hardworking single mom, and this is what's going on, you know, with my child, and I need, you know, to be able to be safe somewhere. You know, more people, more landlords are going to be, you know, more willing to say, hey, you know what, let's do this. Like, you know, we're seeing that with our homeless population. We're seeing that, right? The more that we talk about situations, the more knowledgeable people with, I'm just going to say it, people with money are, that then become more willing to get involved also, whether it's touched their life or it hasn't touched their life. But, you know, there's a lot of things. So, but yeah, I mean, it'll depend upon your county. And that's why you won't find people have like this ready-made sheet, right? Because it depends on your city, your state, your county, or whatever, and how they have it run and what type of resources are actually available where you live. So, you know, but having a provider like, and myself, like I will work with people to create that plan of action, whether it's an exit plan or it's a, whatever it is, a safety plan, whatever it is, you have to have a plan. You have to know how you're getting from point A to point Z, and you've got to have, you know, B through Y distinguished. You can't just say, I'm sitting here and I want to get there, you know, and not have a safety plan.
Yeah.
Or a healing plan or a transformation plan or whatever it is, right? Like we've got to, you know, plan out how we're going to get where we want to get.
Tricia, since this is your wheelhouse for sure, make sure you go onto the Facebook video that we're streaming right now into the group for those that maybe didn't feel comfortable coming on camera to be in here, but wanted to watch. If you could put some more information, and I'm going to let you and Annie take the lead on creating a group for people to be able to get together, because it is your wheelhouse. It's what you do portionally for a living. And so it would be helpful if you, because you've already got groups going, if you were able to reach out to everyone on this call and, you know, bring everyone together, and the two of you could do that. That would be very helpful.
I would love to. And I didn't come in here intending to jump into your thing, Annie, but it is something very passionate to me.
Yeah.
In fact, I just got home from vacation, literally saw that this was happening last night. And I'm like, I got to be there. Right.
Yeah.
So 100%.
Agreed. Yeah.
I'd like to say that if anybody wants to just talk, you can call me. You can email me and I'll send you my phone number.
Okay, drop it in the chat. That would be helpful.
Okay.
If you could drop your number in the chat for anyone that's on this call. And then our next Teaching Tuesday will be September 14th. So it'll be next Tuesday. And on next Tuesday, we're going to have Merelda Rodriguez with us. She's been a member of Lead Up for Women for quite some time now. I'm copying the link so you can all get registered for next week. I'll drop that into the chat. And we're going to be talking about how to sleep your way to weight loss, high energy, and personal successes. And it's Merelda Rodriguez. And I have to say, I'm all about the sleep. When it comes to, I tell my husband this every night, and I sleep really good. When it comes to sleeping at night, I always tell him when I hop in bed, this is my favorite time of the day, you know, to hop in bed and sleep, because I know my body needs the rest. It needs to rejuvenate. It's what helps me get a clear mind, have ideas, wake up rested. And back in my corporate days, I used to take sleep for granted. And it was like, why do I have to sleep? I have all these things I have to do. And I have to tell you that my body was just broken down, and I wasn't near as clear-minded. I wasn't as intentional. I wasn't as creative. And since I'm sleeping, you know, 7 to 8 hours a night, it's a huge difference on my body and my life. And so I really am excited about what Merelda is going to talk about next week, especially, you know, for people that struggle to sleep or feel like I did, where, you know, I didn't get a lot of sleep at night. And I told myself I didn't need to sleep that much. And so that's what my body was, you know, programmed for. And I even know that my husband went through an issue where he wasn't sleeping, went and saw somebody and, you know, did a session with them. And before you know it, the next night he's sleeping. It's the craziest thing in the world. I think some of it's a story that we tell ourselves, you know, and realizing what sleep can do for you versus it taking time away from you. I'm I'm excited about next week. So I hope you guys will all join me. We do that at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So that'll be next Tuesday on the 14th. I dropped the link in there. It's free to register to join us, or you can watch it, later if you can't make it on Facebook. I'll have Morel drop all of our information into the chat as well. So Annie, make sure you go out to the Facebook group as well. Drop your information into the chat, email, phone number for people to reach out to you. And I know Trisha will also, so that she can get a group going. And thank you so much for just being here today, bringing this group together, sharing all your tips, and for sharing information even after this about, what the awareness piece, and maybe even drop that in the Facebook chat, which are, the list of things to be aware of if we see, that someone else might be suffering with, so that we can report it too as well. The more we share and spread the word, the more we're able to help each other. So thank you so much for that. And thank you, ladies, for joining us today as well. All right, ladies, have a great rest of your week. And we will see you next week on Tuesday for our Teaching Tuesday. Bye, ladies. Take care. Bye-bye now.